It was supposed to be a quiet escape, a chance to leave the city's noise behind. But the moment we stepped into the cabin, hidden deep in the whispering pines, something felt wrong, like the forest itself was watching. I needed a break. Work had been a relentless grind, and the weight of the past year, failed projects, late nights, and a breakup that still stung, had left me hollow. My friend Mia, always the optimist, suggested we rent a cabin for a long weekend. Somewhere remote, she said, her eyes sparkling with the promise of adventure. No Wi-Fi, no distractions, just us and nature. After hours of scrolling through rental listings, we found it. A secluded cabin in the Whispering Pines, a dense forest in northern Maine. The photos showed a charming wooden retreat nestled among towering evergreens, with a wraparound porch and a stone fireplace. The reviews were glowing, though sparse, and the host, a man named Elias, promised solitude and serenity. I booked it on impulse, desperate for anything that felt like a reset. We arrived late on a Friday afternoon in October, the air crisp and heavy with the scent of pine. The gravel road to the cabin was barely a path, winding through trees that seemed to lean closer with every mile. Mia, behind the wheel of her battered SUV, hummed softly, unbothered by the isolation. I wasn't so sure. The forest felt alive, its silence punctuated by the occasional rustle of leaves or snap of a twig. The cabin was exactly as advertised, rustic but modern, with solar-powered lights and a well-stocked kitchen. A note from Elias sat on the counter, written in neat cursive. "Welcome to the Whispering Pines. Make yourselves at home. Stay on the marked trails and keep the fire burning at night. Enjoy your stay." "Keep the fire burning?" Mia read aloud, raising an eyebrow. "What's that about? Afraid we'll freeze?" I shrugged, though the instruction struck me as odd. Maybe it's just part of the vibe. Cozy cabin, roaring fire, you know? We unpacked quickly, eager to explore before dark. The cabin's main room was warm and inviting, with a massive stone fireplace and floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked a small clearing. Beyond that, the forest stretched endlessly, the pines so dense they swallowed the fading sunlight. Upstairs, 2 bedrooms awaited, each with plush beds and views of the treetops. A narrow staircase led to a loft with a skylight, perfect for stargazing. As we stepped onto the porch, I noticed a small wooden box by the door. It wasn't there when we arrived. Inside was a single iron key, heavy and cold to the touch, attached to a leather cord. A tag read, "For the shed. Use it wisely." "Shed?" Mia said, glancing around. I didn't see one. Neither had I, but the clearing was large and the trees hid plenty. "Maybe it's for firewood or something," I said, pocketing the key. "We'll figure it out later." We spent the rest of the evening settling in. Mia cooked pasta on the gas stove while I built a fire, following Elias's instructions. The flames crackled, casting dancing shadows on the walls. For the first time in months, I felt a flicker of peace. Maybe this was exactly what I needed. That night, as we sat by the fire with mugs of hot cider, Mia told ghost stories, her voice low and theatrical. I laughed, but the forest outside seemed to listen, its silence growing heavier with every word. When we finally went to bed, the fire still burning low, I couldn't shake the feeling that we weren't alone. I woke to a sound I couldn't place, a faint, rhythmic tapping, like fingers drumming on glass. It was just after 2 a.m., the cabin dark except for the faint glow of the fire downstairs. Mia was asleep in the next room, her soft snores audible through the thin walls. I lay still, listening, trying to convince myself it was just the wind or a branch against the window. But the tapping didn't stop. It was deliberate, almost patient, coming from the skylight above the loft. I grabbed my phone, using its light to climb the narrow staircase. The loft was cold, the air sharp with the scent of pine. The skylight was clear, revealing a sky full of stars, but the tapping had stopped the moment I reached the top step. I stood there, heart pounding, scanning the darkness outside. Nothing moved. No branches, no animals, just the endless sea of trees. Then, just as I turned to go back downstairs, I saw it. A faint flicker of light in the forest, maybe 100 yards away. It was brief, like a flashlight being switched on and off, but it was unmistakable. I froze, my breath catching. Who would be out there at this hour? Hunters? Hikers? The nearest town was 30 miles away, and Elias had said the surrounding land was private. I watched for another minute, but the light didn't return. Finally, I crept back to bed, telling myself it was nothing. Just my imagination, stirred by Mia's stories and the strangeness of the place. The next morning, I told Mia about the tapping and the light. She frowned, sipping her coffee. "You sure it wasn't a dream? You were pretty tired last night." "I'm sure," I said, though doubt crept in. "It felt intentional." She smirked. "Okay, city boy, don't go all paranoid on me. It was probably just a raccoon or something. Let's go find that shed and burn off some of your nervous energy." Ascertainable. We bundled up and set out on one of the marked trails, the key to the shed tucked in my pocket. The forest was beautiful but eerie, the pines whispering in the breeze. The trail was well maintained, marked by small wooden stakes, but the deeper we went, the more I felt like we were being watched. Mia, oblivious, chatted about her latest art project, but I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting to see someone or something behind us. After about 20 minutes, we found the shed, half hidden by undergrowth. It was small, made of weathered wood, with a heavy padlock on the door. I pulled out the iron key, and it fit perfectly. Inside, the shed was cramped, filled with tools, a generator, and stacks of firewood. But what caught my eye was a shelf lined with jars, dozens of them, filled with what looked like ash or dirt. Each had a label with a date, the earliest from 10 years ago, the most recent from last month. "What the hell?" Mia muttered, picking up a jar. "Is this cremation ash?" I shivered, the air in the shed suddenly too close. "Maybe it's just dirt, or I don't know, fertilizer." She gave me a skeptical look. "In labeled jars? This is creepy, Nate." We left the shed, locking it behind us. Mia tried to laugh it off, but I could tell she was unsettled. So was I. The jars, the key, the tapping. It was all starting to feel like pieces of a puzzle I didn't want to solve. That afternoon, we stayed close to the cabin, lounging on the porch with books and a thermos of tea. The fire burned steadily inside, its warmth seeping through the open door. But the peace from the night before was gone. Every rustle in the trees made me jump, and I kept checking the windows, half expecting to see a face staring back. Around dusk, Mia suggested a short walk to watch the sunset. I hesitated, but her enthusiasm was infectious, and I didn't want to seem like a coward. We followed a different trail this time, one that led to a rocky outcrop with a view of the valley below. The sky was ablaze with orange and pink, the pines silhouetted like sentinels. For a moment, I forgot my unease, lost in the beauty of it all. Then Mia grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Nate," she whispered, pointing. At the edge of the clearing, just inside the tree line, stood a figure. It was tall, cloaked in a dark, hooded jacket, face hidden in shadow. They didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, watching us. My stomach dropped. my pulse racing. I wanted to call out, to demand who they were, but my voice caught in my throat. "Let's go," Mia hissed, already backing away. I nodded, keeping my eyes on the figure as we retreated. They didn't follow, but their presence felt like a weight pressing down on me. By the time we reached the cabin, we were both shaking. We locked the doors, checked the windows, and piled more wood on the fire, as if the flames could ward off whatever was out there. "Who was that?" Mia asked, her voice small. "I don't know," I said, though my mind was racing. "Maybe a hiker or a neighbor." "In a hood? Just standing there?" She shook her head. "That wasn't normal, Nate." We stayed up late, jumping at every sound. I kept the fire roaring, remembering Elias's note. "Keep the fire burning at night." Was it a warning? A ritual? I didn't know, but I wasn't taking chances. The next morning, we were exhausted, our nerves frayed. Mia wanted to leave, but I convinced her to stay one more night. "We paid for the weekend," I said, trying to sound rational. "And we don't even know if that person was dangerous. It could have been nothing." She wasn't convinced, but she agreed, mostly because driving back in her tired state wasn't safe. We spent the day inside, playing cards and avoiding the windows. The forest, once beautiful, now felt like a cage. That night, the tapping returned. This time, it wasn't just the skylight. It was the windows, the doors, the walls. A soft, insistent rhythm circling the cabin. Mia clutched my hand, her eyes wide with terror. "They're here," she whispered. I grabbed a flashlight and a kitchen knife, my hands trembling. "Stay here," I said, though I had no idea what I was doing. I stepped onto the porch, the cold biting through my jacket. The tapping stopped, replaced by a new sound, a low, guttural whisper, like voices overlapping, coming from the trees. "Leave," they said, the words stretching into a hiss. "Leave now." I swung the flashlight, its beam cutting through the darkness. For a split second, I saw them, 3 figures, cloaked and hooded, standing just beyond the clearing. Their faces were wrong, blurred like smudged photographs. I stumbled back, the knife slipping from my hand. The whispers grew louder, a chorus of voices filling the air. I ran inside, slamming the door and locking it. Mia was crying, curled up by the fire. "What's happening?" she sobbed. "I don't know," I said, my voice shaking, "but we're leaving. Now." We threw our bags together, not caring about the mess. The whispers followed us, seeping through the walls, urging us to go. I kept the fire burning until the last second, hoping it would hold them back. As we ran to the car, I glanced back. The figures were closer now, standing at the edge of the porch. Their blurred faces fixed on us. The drive out of the whispering pines was a blur. The gravel road seemed longer, the trees pressing in tighter. Mia gripped the wheel, her knuckles white, while I watched the rearview mirror, expecting to see those figures behind us. The whispers faded as we reached the main road, replaced by the hum of the engine and our ragged breathing. We didn't stop until we hit a gas station an hour away, its fluorescent lights a stark contrast to the forest's darkness. Mia called the police, her voice trembling as she explained what happened. They were skeptical, promising to check the cabin, but warning us that pranksters sometimes targeted remote rentals. I didn't argue, too drained to care. Back in the city, we tried to move on. Mia threw herself into her art, painting dark, abstract forests that sold surprisingly well. I quit my job, took up freelance work, anything to avoid long hours in a cubicle. But the whispering pines stayed with us. I couldn't sleep without a light on, and Mia admitted she kept a knife by her bed. A month later, I contacted Elias, demanding answers. His response was curt. "The cabin is safe. Stay on the trails. Keep the fire burning. No refunds." I pushed, mentioning the figures, the jars, the whispers. He stopped replying. When I checked the rental listing, it was gone, as if the cabin never existed. I couldn't let it go. The experience gnawed at me, a splinter I couldn't pull out. Against Mia's advice, I started digging. Online forums for hikers and campers mentioned the Whispering Pines, but the stories were vague. Missing hikers, strange lights, voices in the trees, nothing concrete, just enough to keep me up at night. Then I found it, an old article from a local paper buried in an archive. In the 1970s, a commune lived in the Whispering Pines, led by a man named Amos Kane. They called themselves the Children of the Flame, obsessed with fire as a purifying force. The article described rituals involving ash collected from burned offerings, sometimes animals, sometimes worse. The commune vanished after a fire swept through the forest, leaving only rumors behind. The dates on the jars matched the years since the fire. I didn't want to believe it, but the pieces fit. The children hadn't vanished. They'd stayed, hidden, continuing their rituals. The cabin, the key, the fire, it was all part of their game, luring outsiders to the forest. I showed Mia the article. She read it in silence, her face pale. "What if they're still out there?" she asked. "They are," I said, the words heavy. "And they're waiting." A year later, I went back. Not to the cabin. I wasn't that reckless. But to the edge of the Whispering Pines, where the forest met the highway. I don't know why. Closure maybe, or a need to prove it wasn't all in my head. Mia refused to come, and I didn't blame her. The forest was quiet, the pines swaying in the wind. I parked and stood at the tree line, my breath visible in the cold. I didn't go in, didn't need to. I could feel them watching, their presence like a pulse in the air. I lit a match, let it burn for a moment, then dropped it to the ground, grinding it out with my boot. "Stay away," I said, my voice steady. The wind carried my words into the trees, and for a moment, I thought I heard a whisper in return. But it was just the pines, murmuring their secrets. I got back in my car and drove away, the forest shrinking in my rearview mirror. I haven't been back since. I don't plan to. Some places are better left alone, and the Whispering Pines is one of them. But sometimes, late at night, I hear tapping on my window, faint and rhythmic. I keep a lighter by my bed, just in case.